This is the Chappell Real Estate Show, episode number 26.
What if I'm still not able to pay my mortgage payment and my forbearance has ended?
If you've requested forbearance and you know that you're coming up on the end of your forbearance period here in the near future, then it's highly recommended, if you know that you're not going to be able to resume your mortgage payments once it ends, that you get ready to put it on the market. As we've been talking about in I don't know how many of our episodes recently, it is still a very, very, very strong seller's market. So if you're in a position where you know that you may not be able to pay it back, there's a very high likelihood, if you've been in your home for at least the last 6 months to a year, which if your forbearance is ending, that stands to reason, then you probably have enough equity in it to be able to sell it and pay back what you owe. And the biggest thing is you'll avoid getting a foreclosure on your credit, because that is incredibly difficult to overcome in the future, and it's really hard to recover from.
Welcome to the Chappell Real Estate Show, your source for the latest real estate information so you can buy, sell, and invest with the best in Texas. Whether you're a first-time buyer, a current homeowner, or a seasoned investor, you've come to the right place. We're here to simplify all things real estate so you can achieve your goals of property ownership with your hosts, Daniel and Roger Chappell.
What's up, listeners, and thank you guys for tuning into the Chappell Real Estate Show, your source for the latest real estate information so that you can learn how to buy, sell, and invest with the best. I'm your host, Daniel Chappell, and my dad, Roger Chappell, joins us today. How's your day going, Dad?
Hey, everybody. Everything's going great for here. Glad to be back home.
Yeah, no kidding. So my dad and I, along with the rest of our family, just got back from North Dakota. My brother got married this past weekend, and man, we took a road trip up there. So we spent, 20 hours on the road each direction?
Yep. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time. So we're excited. We're glad to be home, back in the comfort of our offices. I just got moved into my new house last week, right before we left for the wedding. So welcome to my new office. This is my new setup. So really excited to be back with you guys. So as promised from last week's episode, we said that we were going to release an episode all about forbearance. So if you look back on episode, was it number 16? We talked about forbearances, and basically what we want to do now is go a little bit more in depth to it. So as some of you may have heard from our last episode, on June 30th, the forbearances have technically ended. And basically what that means is that your ability to request forbearance through the CARES Act, which we'll kind of go into what that is here in just a minute, has just ended. So basically we wanted to put a little bit of information out there so that the people that are already in forbearance or that requested forbearance prior to June 30th understand what that means and what the future of forbearance means for them, and kind of answer some of the frequently asked questions that go along with this kind of uncharted water of forbearances that were a result of the Coronavirus Relief Act. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Dad, why don't you give our listeners the Chappell Chunk for the day?
So today's Chappell Chunk is simply going to be, before you reach the end of your forbearance, reach out to your lender, find out what your particular situation is as far as what your payments are going to be and how all that's going to be set up. Don't get caught short-handed, and then all of a sudden you're having to pay a fortune. So check with your lender before your period of forbearance ends. And that varies for each and every individual or for family who entered into forbearance. They're all different, as you're going to learn.
Yep. Thank you. That is going to be our Chappell Chunk for the day. So as he mentioned, basically these forbearances are based on the day that you requested them. So for every single person, it's going to be different. Every lender is going to be different. So we're going to go into some of those details for you guys a little bit into the episode. But today we're going to have my dad ask me the questions, because I've done quite a bit of research on forbearance. I've worked with a couple of my clients that have been in the position where they have forbearances on their properties. Basically, I've got a little bit of experience with this. So he's going to lead the questioning. I'm going to give some answers, and hopefully we give you guys some information you haven't heard before.
Thanks, Daniel. Nice segue. So I think one of the first things we need to discuss is, first of all, what is the CARES Act as it relates to forbearance?
So the CARES Act was a relief program. It stands for the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. So basically, it was a relief program released for people who were experiencing hardships as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. A lot of people were put out of their jobs, were unable to continue to work and make payments on their mortgages, or they just had major setbacks as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. So this was an effort to provide relief for families that didn't have the ability to continue to pay their mortgages. So basically what the forbearance is it was a part of the CARES Act that allowed for homeowners to postpone their mortgage payments. So it's not payment forgiveness, but it allows you to postpone your payments with a promise to pay them back at a later date. So that's basically what it was.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, then what you're saying is if I went into forbearance, then it's not a grant. It's not forgiveness for my loan. It just means that I don't have to pay for the period of the forbearance, but I am going to have to pay that money back at some point. Is that correct?
Correct. And as we'll get into a little bit later, there's several different ways that you can go about paying that forbearance back. So, the forbearance can last as short as 1 month, as long as up to 18 months in some cases. So it's going to depend on the individual how much they actually need to pay back. And there are going to be several different ways that we're going to discuss here as we get through the episode as far as repayment options.
Okay, so you touched on this already, and I want to make sure that I understand this correctly. So the forbearance period, that starts from the date that I apply. Is that correct?
That is correct. So the forbearance is available to homeowners who are under a VA, USDA, FHA, or conventional loan, and the length of time that they basically when you initially request the forbearance, it is for an initial period of 6 months, and you can end it early, but the starting period is 6 months of forbearance, and then you can go through your lender to request an extension on that in 3-month increments.
Okay, so if I have a VA loan, do I go through the VA to do this?
No. So you would go through whoever the lender is for so whoever you make your mortgage payment to, that is who you would request forbearance through. And you would also request any additional extensions to forbearance through that lender.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So what is the maximum amount of time that I would be able to carry that forbearance? Do you know?
So it depends on the type of loan that you have. So for conventional loans, I believe it's a maximum of 15 months. For USDA, FHA, and VA loans, it's a maximum of 18 months. So, and something that's kind of unique to conventional loans is on June 30th, USDA, VA, and FHA loans are no longer able to request forbearance under the CARES Act. The conventional loan, believe it or not, did not specify an end date. So there is the possibility that your lender, and this is going to vary from lender to lender. So like we mentioned before, you have to check with your lender on what your options are. But for conventional loans, your lender may still offer forbearance. And the good thing about the forbearance through the CARES Act is that it's not reported to your credit agency, which is going to be very important.
So that leads me to the next question I was about to ask is, if I don't make my payments because of forbearance, does that negatively impact my credit? Because it seems to me if I'm not paying for my house, the bank is going to come take it from me.
So you do have to carefully watch your credit report and ensure that your mortgage lender is not reporting this to the credit bureaus. But through the CARES Act, it specifically states that your lender may not allow for this to negatively impact your credit. So if you, regardless if it's 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, as long as it's requested through the CARES Act and it's properly done, you request it through the lender, you extend it through the lender, and you've taken all the right steps, then no, it will not negatively impact your credit.
Okay, so I'm going to use an example of me. So let's assume that today my forbearance period is within 30 days. Because like I said in the Chappell chunk, I'm not going to wait until the very end to contact my lender. I'm actually going to do that right now. So I've got about 30 days until it ends, and I'm told that on August the 18th is my last day. So I'm going to reach out to my lender tomorrow, right? Is that what I'm understanding correctly?
Per the CARES Act, the lender is technically supposed to reach out to you 30 days prior to the end of your forbearance period. Now, like you said, you do not want to wait until your lender contacts you, because basically what your lender is contacting you to do is to discuss your repayment options. So you want to contact your lender before 30 days from the end of your forbearance period so that you can request any extensions if you foresee a continuation of hardship where you don't think you're going to be able to continue making your mortgage payments. So you want to stay ahead of the game, definitely. It behooves you to contact your lender first.
Okay. So let's assume then that I'm no longer employed still. I'm still unable to get employment. So I need an extension. What I'm understanding then is that I need to contact the lender as soon as possible to let them know that, hey, I'm still not employed and I still need to continue with the forbearance, correct?
That is correct. And every lender is going to be different. I know a lot of lenders have the feature where you can request forbearance and request forbearance extensions through your online portal. So if you pay your payments through online, then you may be able to request the forbearance and the extensions through there. But it still is a good idea for you to contact your lender because these forbearances are a little bit tricky. So you want to make sure that you understand the agreement because it's an agreement between you and your lender. So that agreement, while it is technically regulated by the CARES Act, it is going to vary from lender to lender as far as what repayment options they offer you, what their requirements are to extend the forbearance, or what their requirements are for you to even qualify for the forbearance program.
Okay. So I think we've covered that all pretty well. So now I've had the conversation with my lender, and my lender is calling me on the forbearance. We've now discussed several options. Can you kind of walk me through what some of those options might be? And I want our listeners to understand that what I'm doing now is I'm trying to walk through this a little bit in little bitty pieces. But at the same time, I want you guys to understand you really do need to contact your lender. This is just Daniel and I discussing this. Hopefully our listeners will understand this better and contact your lender and work it out with them. But the scenarios that we're kind of going through here might answer a lot of your questions, or at least that's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah. So basically what we're going to discuss at this point, I think what you're asking is what are the options in terms of repayment? Am I right?
Correct.
Okay, so there's a few different ways that you can go about repaying the forbearance. So the first is going to be full repayment, which most people are probably not going to be in a position to pay back the full amount. It is possible, depends on how long the forbearance period was and how much your mortgage payment was. But full repayment is one option. So if, say, for example, your mortgage payment is $1,000 and you spent 6 months on forbearance, you owe $6,000 in principal and interest, and you are required to pay back both principal and interest. They accrue at a normal rate as the forbearance is in place. So you're required to pay back both the principal and interest. So full repayment, you would have to pay back that lump sum of $6,000 once you exit forbearance. So that's the first option. The second option is going to be intermittent payments. So we'll use the same example. Say your mortgage payment was $1,000. You went on forbearance for 6 months. You can create an agreement with your lender of repayment in a term of 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, whatever best suits your scenario. And that will be tacked on top of your mortgage payment. So in that scenario, say you have $6,000 to repay. You agree with your lender that you'll repay that in a period of 12 months. So you're going to have your original mortgage payment of $1,000 because that mortgage payment doesn't stop just because you're paying back the forbearance. So you have your normal mortgage payment of $1,000 plus that additional $500 for that 12-month period until you pay back the amount that you missed during the forbearance period. So that's going to be your second option, is going to be intermittent payments over an agreed upon term with your lender. Another option is going to be a loan extension. So what that does is it essentially takes your mortgage payments that you missed and tacks them onto the end of the loan. So in this case, it may require a restructuring of the loan, which takes a little bit of time. The loan would have to go back into underwriting. And there could be a period of time where if you wanted to sell or if you wanted to possibly try to get another mortgage loan, you would have trouble doing so with having another loan in underwriting and in the process of being renegotiated. So that is another option, is to have those payments moved to the end of the loan. So depending on your situation, that may be a good option, but it may not work for everybody. The fourth option is going to be what's called a payment deferral. So that allows you to postpone the repayment until either you sell the property, refinance the property, or pay the property off. So say, for example, you've been in the property for 27 years and you only had 3 years left of payments, but then you lost your job and you were unable to continue to make your payments during the coronavirus. You went on forbearance for 6 months, you were able to find another job, and you have $6,000 that you're required to pay back, but you don't have that money to pay back immediately. Well, you could have it to where you pay off the remaining 3 years of the loan, and at the end of that 3 years, you make another 6 months worth of payments to pay back the amount that you missed on your forbearance. So that's going to be another option that's available to you. And then the last option is going to be a loan modification. So what that does is that basically takes the amount that you missed on the forbearance period, it restructures the entire loan and lumps it back into the loan balance itself. So if you owed $95,000 on your home, you took $6,000, $1,000 a month during your forbearance period where you didn't pay, that $95,000 will then add on to that $6,000, and they'll restructure that loan, and your mortgage payment will then start anew at a new mortgage premium. So that's essentially how that would work. So those are the 5 options for repayment on the forbearance program. So I'm giving you guys these general examples of a $1,000 mortgage payment over the course of 6 months for a total of $6,000. That's not entirely accurate. I'm just using that as an example to kind of put numbers to the scenario. But you will continue to accrue interest on the payments that you have not made. So that $6,000 may be closer to $7,000 or $8,000 when it's all said and done. I'm just trying to kind of give you guys simple numbers to help you understand the repayment options that are available to you through the forbearance program.
Okay, that's great information. That's very helpful. So my next question is, during the pandemic and a lot of people were at home, a lot of people saved some money, serious money. So even though they weren't working at the time, their expenses took a dramatic decline because they're not driving to and from work and all these other, they're not able to travel, they're not able to do much but stay around the house. So their expenses dropped, so they were able to save money. So in that instance, even though they entered forbearance, again, going back to myself, let's assume I entered forbearance, but I've got some extra money here. Can I pay into that?
You absolutely can. So the way that works is the lender is going to say, again, you have a $1,000 mortgage payment and you have an extra $500 left over at the end of the month. You can take that $500 and pay it towards your mortgage payment. And that's going to reduce the amount that you owe at the end of the forbearance period. Now, what's a little bit different is, say, for example, your mortgage payment is $1,000 and you've only paid $500. They're not going to actually make that $1,000 mortgage payment with that $500. What they're going to do is they're going to hold that $500 payment until they receive another $500 so that they can apply that full $1,000 to the full missed mortgage payment. So absolutely, yes, you can make additional payments, but it's only going to reduce once you've actually made a full mortgage payment off of the actual forbearance balance. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, I got it.
Something that I had forgot to mention before is that the forbearance period, like I said, is based on the date that you actually requested it. And different loans may be available or may be eligible for additional extensions. So technically speaking, The forbearance period is an initial period of 6 months. You can then request up to 2 extensions of 3 months for a total of 12 months. But for FHA, VA, and USDA loans that were originally requested for forbearance prior to June 30th of 2020 could potentially be eligible for an additional 2 3-month extensions for a total of 18 months. In addition to that, conventional loans that were requested for forbearance prior to February 28th of 2021 may be eligible for 1 additional 3-month extension for a total of 15 months in forbearance. So pay attention to those key dates. If you've been in forbearance prior to the dates that I mentioned, then you may be eligible for an additional extension through your lender. But as we said before, you have to check with your lender. Every lender is different. Their requirements are different for the extensions. So you need to check with your mortgage lender to see what options are available to you.
So let's assume I had applied for and been accepted a 6-month extension, and I wound up getting new employment, and all of a sudden we're back ready to pay, and I've got $3,000 extra dollars. Can I end my forbearance early and pay off what I owe?
Yes. So I'd only recommend that you end the forbearance if you're prepared to pay back the amount that you've missed. So I understand if you're in a position where you've been in forbearance for 3 months and you're worried about continuing for another month because it's going to increase the amount that you owe, and you have an additional $1,000 a month of disposable income that you're going to be able to start making your mortgage payment again. I understand the temptation. However, if you're not able to pay an additional $300 or $400 a month to pay back what you owe, then technically speaking, you're not ready to end that forbearance just yet. So keep that in mind. You can end the forbearance early, but be sure that you're prepared to pay back the total balance that you owe in a very timely manner. So if you've been on forbearance for 3 months, be sure that you're able to pay back the remaining forbearance balance in the next 3 months. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, certainly. Okay, so after I've exited forbearance, is it possible that I can qualify for another loan to buy another house?
Yes, you can. So in order to qualify for a new mortgage after exiting forbearance, there's a few requirements that you have to meet. First, you have to have paid back, or rather paid your regular mortgage payment for at least the previous 3 consecutive months. So you have to have exited forbearance and made 3 payments on time on your current mortgage in order to qualify for a new mortgage. In addition to that, you will have to meet the other lending requirements such as credit scores, down payments, debt to income ratio, and gainful and current employment. So those all still have to be met in order for you to be able to get the mortgage. So, and that's actually where some people may find themselves in a little bit of a hang up, because typically if you've lost employment for a period of time, the lender may or may not consider you a good candidate for a loan if you had a period of unemployment. So it's still unclear how that's going to affect lending practices if you were unemployed during the coronavirus or as a result of the coronavirus. That is still unclear, and I'm sure that it's going to vary from lender to lender on whether or not they give mortgages to people who have had a gap in their employment history.
What if I'm still not able to pay my mortgage payment and my forbearance has ended?
Well, hopefully your forbearance hasn't ended yet. So I really hope that we've released this in time for the people that requested forbearance as soon as it became available. If your forbearance period has already ended and you have no ability to pay back, I would highly recommend that you get with a realtor as quickly as you possibly can. If you're in our area, we'd love for you to contact us, and we'll assist you in getting your home on the market as quickly as possible so that we can minimize the damage from the forbearance. And hopefully you haven't already missed a mortgage payment and foreclosure proceedings haven't already begun. Now, if you've requested forbearance and you know that you're coming up on the end of your forbearance period here in the near future, then it's highly recommended if you know that you're not going to be able to resume your mortgage payments once it ends, that you get ready to put it on the market. As we've been talking about in I don't know how many of our episodes recently, it is still a very, very, very strong seller's market. So if you're in a position where you know that you may not be able to pay it back, there's a very high likelihood if you've been in your home for at least the last 6 months to a year, which if your forbearance is ending, that stands to reason, then you probably have enough equity in it to be able to sell it and pay back what you owe. And the biggest thing is you'll avoid getting a foreclosure on your credit, because that is incredibly difficult to overcome in the future, and it's really hard to recover from.
Yeah, that's very true. And, Daniel, after all of this discussion here that we're having now, I'm taken back to last week's episode when we talked about how strong our economy is and how strong the sales market is in our area, and how we don't believe that there's any kind of a burst, or what did that guy call it? What did Nick call it? An imminent crash in the Austin market. Okay, so that's not going to happen. So since we know that crash isn't coming, even though we're talking about forbearance, which is could have some negative impacts for some folks, I still don't anticipate this being a deal breaker or something that's going to cause our market to crash. Yes, people went into forbearance, but there are solutions out there, and all of these solutions are workable, and lenders are willing to work with homeowners to make this thing happen. So all of this nervousness and skittishness about whether or not people are going to be able to afford their homes, I don't think this is a big deal. I still think we have a very strong market. I don't think this is going to negatively impact it. We may have a few more homes come on the market as a result of the forbearance, because people have decided they want to sell it so they can pay back their forbearance. Okay, we can work with that. But I would venture to say the vast majority of people are going to be able to work something out with their lender to be able to repay the forbearance without any negative impact on their credit.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And something that I actually kind of want to touch on that I forgot to mention a little bit earlier, if and this is kind of a little bit not here nor there, considering that most loans are no longer eligible to request forbearance, but note that your loan does not automatically go into forbearance if you miss a payment. And note that it does not automatically extend if you miss a payment once your initial forbearance period ends. So as we've mentioned in previous episodes, communication is 100% key. Ask for help and you shall receive it. Make sure that you contact your lender. And if you know, like we said, if you're in a position where your forbearance is ending and you're not going to be able to pay it back, contact a realtor, contact one of us. We'll be more than happy to connect you with somebody in your area, or better yet, help you if you're in our area, so that we can get you out of the home and, get you some money in your pocket and preserve your credit. Because that is, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that you still have the ability to achieve that American dream in the future. So I think, this forbearance program is very beneficial if you understand how to work it and understand the final repercussions of it. So hopefully this episode has helped with, providing some of the knowledge necessary so that you can make sure that you end your forbearance on the right terms.
Yep. So I guess to kind of wrap things up, I want people to understand, and I think this is why you and I decided to do this episode, forbearance is not the end of the world. It's really not. It was designed to help people out. And like you said, and I will reiterate it, communication is key. Talk to your lender, work something out. I promise you it's going to work in your favor. It always does. If you talk to them and tell them what's going on, they're going to reach out to you. They're going to try to help you out as best they possibly can. Because trust me, the last thing a bank wants to do is own your house. They're not in the house owning business. They don't want to own your house. They're in the money lending business. They want to loan you money. That's where they make their money. Not off of selling your house, not off of owning your house. They don't want it. They want you to have it. So make sure you talk to them and work that out. And again, like Daniel has already mentioned, if you guys have any questions about any of this, by all means, please reach out to us. We'll be happy to put you in touch with the right people. If it's us, that's great. If it's somebody else and you need the referral, by all means, please reach out to us. We're happy to help. So listening to this podcast, I hope you got something out of it that's very useful. If you did, please like it, share it with your friends. Somebody that you know of may have this situation going on and has a bunch of questions. Please share it with them. Go back through some of our other episodes. Episode 16 touches on forbearance as well. Give us a like. Leave us a comment. We do respond to those comments. Share us on social media. So get us around out there. Let's see if we can't get some more views and get the information out to more people. That's why we're doing this. We're doing this to actually help our listeners, not for any gain from us. We're actually looking to try to help our listeners. So please reach out to us. Let us see what we can do for you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode of the Chappell Real Estate Show, and we will see you guys on next week's episode. This is the Chappell Realty Group signing off. Take care.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Chappell Real Estate Show. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend and leave us a review. Find us on social media at Chappell Realty Group and online at chappellrealtygroup.com. Until next time.